Have you ever been part of a swarm? I've been part of a swarm kind of on accident. When I was younger, I was put in charge of a system of people, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was pretty scared. So I decided to decentralize my own leadership after reading the book, The Starfish and the Spider. It's about the unstoppable power of leaderless organizations. And I was terrified when I took over my system. I didn't know what to do, so I passed out questionnaires. I turned it into a voting process, and I listened to the crowd. I let the crowd basically tell me what to do. I would ask them what I thought that they should do, and they would give me answers, and then I would fight for those answers. And every time it worked, and the system started growing and growing. And I was part of this thing where we were actually all solving problems together. And there was no leader. I guess I was a leader, but I really did my best to get out of the way of the problems that there are with leadership. The crowd knows. The crowd can be wise as long as it's a trustworthy system and it doesn't devolve into factions and labels that can lead to the problems that sometimes come in crowds. But there is wisdom in crowds. It is provable. And if you can get it all working together, you can be part of a swarm. And people that are part of teams or part of Army units or the Navy SEALs, things like this, high trust teams, they'll tell you, even though the conditions were horrible, that it was probably some of the best times of their lives, because the feeling of trust and solving problems in groups is something that humans should be doing more of, because it's awesome. It's awesome. And we need to create new teams like this, new high trust teams. And then all these teams need to work together. And that's how we fix everything. We need to repair trust. Trust is what's broken. Human swarm intelligence, collective intelligence is real. There are systems we can use, and we should be building them. Plus, if these psychopaths break our systems, we should have alternate ones anyways. So let's build some systems together. This wouldn't be that hard if we just decide to do it. I really hope, and I say this with sincerity, I really hope someday you get to be part of a swarm and see what it's like, and feel what it's like when you know the people around you have your back and you have their back for real, with courage, right? It's a rare feeling. It's a special feeling. And when the group works together to solve problems for the group, it creates this new entity. It's a new thing. It's not just like their brains. It creates a new brain. And that new brain is wiser. And this is really, it's testable. So if it's testable, you can do an IQ test on 30 individuals. And then you can run an IQ test on those same 30 people that operate as a swarm, as a group. They answer with a collaborative method that aggregates one answer from the crowd. And when you do it as a group, they double the number of questions they get correct, and they become a super genius. The entity becomes more intelligent on an IQ scale than 97% of the population. Now, this could just mean that it's smarter and can computate a little better. IQ tests are a little funny, but I'm telling you that I've seen it with my own eyes. Letting a group like this run a system, they will be creative. They will create new knowledge. They will surprise you. They can make a company make a lot of money. Their ideas that come out of these groups are good ideas. When the whole group is problem solving together and in good faith, in trust, then there is something there that is different than exists anywhere else that I've experienced in my life. And we can all experience it, or anybody who's willing to join a high trust society, which isn't easy. It should be that you're going to need skin in the game to join a high trust society. You got to show that you're worth it. Or you're willing to sacrifice, not worth it. You're willing to sacrifice, right? You need to be vulnerable a little bit, whether that's putting in effort or money or time or something, right? When you work in a business, you all have skin in the game because you're all trying to make money. That's how you survive. And so it's easy from a business, but we can do this from all kinds of groups. We can form groups that can problem solve as long as there's skin in the game. There's a little bit of vulnerability, it can turn into a swarm, which can turn into a lot of swarms. If you look around right now, all of our systems have lost our trust. Our systems of government, food, medicine, media, science, academia. No one trusts any of them. We need a new place to go talk. Like, they used to be Congress, where like serious talks would happen, or academia. There was like serious talks there. They're not there anymore because no one trusts them. We need a place that we trust, our own like digital Congress or something like that. Not Congress. Actually, this is our own thing. We're making this decentralized. There's going to be no leaders. There has to be no leaders. Leaders are the weak link in our systems of people. We don't need leaders. They're the weak link. We need better systems. We need systems so good that the leaders are obsolete. Maybe you think we can't get there right away. I think you're wrong about that. But you could still have leaders and have it go way more towards the decentralized side of things. And even a little bit, even harnessing the wisdom of the crowd a little bit is a very powerful thing to do. Even if, like, I did use pen and paper and voted and like did written questionnaires, and it worked awesome. But now there's like digital things that we can have that like are amazing for human swarm intelligence. You can aggregate, like, you can ask the whole world a question and get one interesting creative answer from the whole world in like 9 iterations of a game. That's pretty interesting, right? So imagine if that was a wise answer and we listened to it. What if that's right? What if that idea is right? What if that's possible? We have to see. We have to try and see. It works with systems of employees, hundreds of people, over and over and over again. It will work with other systems if the systems are designed right. If there's trust, we need to have trust. Trust in a system is built on transparency and results. That's the 2 things that trust in a system is built on. And trust with each other is built on vulnerability and reciprocation with effort. Like effort to try to reciprocate your vulnerability back to you. You know, you're vulnerable with me, I'm vulnerable with you. I got your back, you got my back. That's how you build trust. And then if you break that trust, well, yeah, there should be repercussions. You know, maybe you're not as trusted anymore. The number one thing we should look for in society for people to work with is how much do we trust them? If we did have politicians or bosses, the number one thing should be trustworthiness. We're not even rating that. We don't care. We're just like letting people in office based on charisma or whatever, but not looking at the trustworthiness behind it all. They could do so much more to be trustworthy. In fact, we just don't need them. We could just run systems with groups of people. Imagine if I ran for office and I just turned around and said, guys, what are we doing? And you guys answer me with a swarm. I said, what rock are we turning over? Point to the rock. And I just walk around. I'm not even if they took me out, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter because like someone else would just pick up the flag. All I'm doing is doing whatever the swarm tells me to do. That would be my job if you guys elected me. But don't elect me. I don't want to be in office or anything. But this is just so easy. Anybody with courage could just take over a system, say, I'm running for mayor. I'm going to turn around and let the people tell me really what to do. And the first thing we're going to do is fix the corruption. We're going to like turn over these rocks and we're going to see what's going on here. And the people tell me where to look. I don't know. I'm literally a servant of the people, like directly. Tell me. I'll be like your remote control person. Say, go look over here and I'll do it. And then whatever. We just break up and do that everywhere. That's the power of a swarm. We need to stop letting the solutions come from the top down. When they come from the top down, they're not really what we want. They're what they want. We need to come up with the solutions from the bottom up. Once we make high trust groups and we have a place to talk, we go talk about it and we percolate the answers from the bottom up. And they're not going to be answers that are going to hurt the swarm. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We're going to find answers that don't hurt us. We're going to make better systems that aren't as easily corruptible as our current ones. And we're going to find trust again, both in the systems and with each other. And if we do those things, we can really start to uncover a lot of knowledge together and move forward as humanity with a totally different idea, a problem-solving revolution, right? The idea that everything is problems. All problems that do not defy the laws of physics are solvable. This is David Deutsch's principle of optimism. And it's beautiful. It's because it's true. And then the idea like, hey, we solve problems better in high trust groups. So if we can make groups of us that trust each other, we can solve some serious problems together. And we can connect those groups together and solve them in decentralized ways. Look at another thing is like, after you nominate someone from your town or whatever to go run for office, just give them cameras. Have them wear cameras all day. Every conversation they have, everything they do. Like, let's just see what the life of a politician is really about, and we'll just work with them. We're like, hey, you really represent the people. Let's just see what that's like. I mean, turn that into a reality show or something. I would watch the shit out of that reality show. Like, if there was someone that went into office and just had cameras on them and was like, I'm going to just show you guys what it's really like to do all of this. These cameras are on 24/7. I wear the things even when I went to the shower. I don't care. If you guys want to see trustworthiness, close your eyes, but it's all going on record, so it's somewhere. And so there's no breach. Like, I want trust, and if I'm doing it. And, that would be an amazing reality show. You can make a high trust group right now. I mean, you already know who you trust. And you can try to be more trustworthy with them. Try to be more honest and open. Because it requires honesty, like to build trust. And be brutally honest with yourself, too. And you can create a real high trust group and build compounded interest with people. Do these long-term iterations. If you're not worried about the other people in the group trying to rip you off, and if you're a SEAL team and I'm not suspiciously watching all the people in your team, you each got your guns pointing outward and making sure that you're not under attack from either direction. If you get that kind of trust where you're not worried about the trust of the people in the group, where one of you could call you up and be like, hey man, I need your help. And you'll be like, I'll be over in 5 minutes. Or maybe even call up and say, hey, I need 10 grand. And you're like, what account do you need it in right now? Without asking questions. There's groups like this that exist. And we can build all different kinds of high trust groups, right? If that's our goal, if that's a problem we're trying to solve. And it should be, because trust is broken. So we need to repair trust in as many ways as possible. That's fixing systems with transparency, demanding results from our systems. But we should build trust with each other too. And you got to be vulnerable to build trust. So make a group, make a mastermind group or some kind of group, high trust group. I have it with I'm lucky. I have it with 15 of my entrepreneur friends, mostly a couple of my tech friends, and we'll help each other problem solve. You got a problem with your business? Let's talk about it. Maybe I can help you. Maybe my business has had experience with that. And, you need a strategy for this or something like that. You know what? I don't know the answer, but I think my other friend in the other side of the group might. Let's grab him. And, this is how you swarm and problem solve as a group. And it compounds. It turns into one big brain. And it's obvious when everyone in the group is kind of succeeding. Everyone that's part of a group like this, if everyone's going in the right direction, then you're kind of like, huh, a lot of small businesses fail, but some of them become big businesses all of a sudden. What's going on here? And we can solve problems in groups. You can decide to do this right now. You don't need the technology, but we can build the technology right now. Super awesome technology where we have ecosystems and we have think tanks and we have idea labs and we can go and answer questions and problem solve. Imagine a place you went to right now, right? Like a social media platform, and there are just problems listed. And you could join any problem solving group you wanted to. And that's called a swarm. So the problem might be fixing a park at your house or something near your house, or it might be fixing the corruption in government, or it might be, hey, anybody want to start a business selling t-shirts? You could have all these different swarms and different parameters to join each swarm. You try to join the swarm and whoever started it might be like, to join this swarm, you have to chip in $10,000 and we're all going to run a business together. That's pretty interesting. Or another swarm, you have to pass a test to show that you've understand how to work in groups. You've done the research. You went to Swarm Academy. You learned how to do it. And now you're trustworthy because you put the effort into understanding the right way to behave in a problem-solving group. And that's the thing. There's ways that you can improve solving problems in groups. Groups of people can be dangerous too. We all know that groups of people in history have sometimes done horrible things. They've also done amazing things. So what makes them do one and not the other? And finding that out is important if we want to harness the wisdom of crowds. It's like harnessing nuclear energy or harnessing electricity. There's a powerful thing in the wisdom of crowds, but there's a dangerous thing if they act poorly. And the answer, like Tim Urban talks about this in his book, What's Our Problem? He calls them genies, which are amazing things that create all the beautiful things in the world. And then there's golems, witch hunts or Nazis or whatever, like times where humans have been tyrannical and not cared for the individual. So our system, has to always protect the individual, because the individual rights, if you're going to be decentralized, then individual nodes are the system. So there has to be individualism and individual rights absolutely protected, just like they are, in America. America was decentralized for the time, right? They didn't have technology. They decentralized as much as they could. And now we need to do it further because they've re-corrupted that. The ways to corrupt it have outpaced the ways to defend it. And we can advance that. We can solve this. We got to use technology too. The people that are in charge are using technology to try to harm us. They're using, central bank digital currencies and trust. They're using trust scores, but it's centralized, like top down. We should have trust, like vouches for each other. Like I vouch for you, you vouch for me. That's how you make a high trust society. Think about like the mafia. They vouch for each other, right? That's a high trust society. Or like to be in the Navy SEALs, you got to go through like Hell Week and all that stuff. And then you basically, got skin in the game. Now you're in the high trust society. They have trust scores for each other, but not from a centralized entity. That can't work. It's got to be like eBay or Amazon, where there's I rate you, you rate me. And this is how you keep AI out of a system or bots and things like that. You can make a high trust system that has no AI or bots, because the only way to get in is to vouch for each other. And we give each other like badges, like, oh yeah, I did jujitsu with you, here's a badge. Or I went fishing with you, here's a badge. Or like, yeah, we went birding together or whatever. We went to school together. You're in my family. You were in my house. Like we can give badges for all different reasons and like leave reviews and then create trust. And then when you go to join a swarm, they might say, hey, for you to join the swarm, someone from the swarm has to vouch for you that you're a real person, or 5 people have to. And maybe to join a swarm, if you don't know anybody in the swarm and you want to join, you have to go meet them, go find out where they are in real person. And you can kind of merge the real world with the digital world here to build trust, which should happen anyways. That's how you build real trust. I mean, the people I trust the most are the people I know in the real world, right? Doesn't mean I can't use technology to bind a bunch of us together, right? So that's the kind of mindset we can have with these swarms. And then you go there to problem solve. You see the problems, you join the swarm, and then maybe your swarm, you have to like do input. You have to do work. You have to like participate. You have to help share whatever the swarm is doing. Like imagine 2 million people sharing the same article at the same time because they're all part of the same swarm. And that thing talks about a new, really hopeful cure for cancer or something that they're all working on together as a swarm, as a group. So you can create these huge groups, and like, then you can raise money decentralized too. Be like, oh, these groups could say like, everyone throw in $20 a month. There's 1 million people. That's $20 million a month. And you can do whatever you want with it. So you can create all these super high trust groups and create a whole ecosystem. And the whole the ecosystem to me really is so fascinating. You can have 1 million people acting as one person, one super genie, as Tim Urban calls them. One more thing. If you're in charge of a system, like if you're already a boss or you own a business, it's really easy to do if you're an owner because you have pretty much absolute control. Or let's say you're a good politician and you want to do good for the people. Decentralize your own leadership. Turn yourself into a swarm. Try it. Do it like a science experiment. Poll the crowd. Ask everyone, if they had your job, what would they do? And then aggregate an answer. Or use like the systems that that we're building to help people do that. And see what happens. See how wise the crowd really is. Like you don't have to wait for this. You can do it. You got to make your system transparent. If it's a business, you got to take care of your employees. They're going to see. If you want to build trust, you got to see. Because this all comes back to trust, right? And remember, with trust and a high trust system, there's forgiveness. There needs to be forgiveness. Like you're not, just because you broke a little trust once or something like that, it can be forgiven, but you have to earn it back, right? That's how you should have to earn trust back, right? You screwed up. You want to be part of a group again? All right. Well, this is the penance you owe or whatever. I don't know. I haven't thought that really through yet, but you can forgive. In my high trust group that I have of my friends, we make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes there's just natural mistakes. It's like not intentional. It's not even trust breaking. You have to understand that people are not always going to succeed when you're helping each other. Even a group isn't unfallible. Everything's fallible, but when you work as a group, it's much less so. You're going to get a lot more problem solved when you work as a group.
I think we've been deprived of a lot more than flying cars and Mars colonies. I think civilization is currently burdened by a debilitating pessimism, not just prophecies of doom, because they've always existed. There's something deeper. Conventional pessimism is right that civilization has no guaranteed future, nor does our species. The overwhelming majority of civilizations and species that have ever existed are now extinct, including significantly every one of our cousin species, every species that has ever tried to survive by creating knowledge that was not in their genome, how to make clothes and fire and farming and to live the new ways of life that enabled. That is our biological niche to survive through the exercise of creativity. And we are the last species left in that niche. For such species, stasis is not available. We conquer problems by creating knowledge, or they conquer us. So there's nothing new in our situation of all sorts of existential danger. It's undeniable that the worst can happen, because the very worst has already happened many times. All those civilizations who believed that their famines and droughts and disasters were divine punishment for their wickedness or whatever, in reality, it was just that they didn't know enough about irrigation, medicine, and so on. If the ancient Athenians had known about antibiotics or just about hygiene, they could have prevented the plague that contributed to the fall of their nascent optimistic society. And if they had, then as Carl Sagan speculated, we might now be at the stars, and technology would be regulating trivialities like the planetary climate as automatically as it's now regulating the temperature in this room. Every transformation of physical systems that is not forbidden by laws of physics is achievable given the right knowledge. And hence, the rational attitude to the future is what I call optimism, the principle of optimism, namely that all evils are caused by lack of knowledge. That isn't a prophecy of success. It's an explanation for failure. If we fail at anything that's physically possible, it's because of some knowledge that we fail to create. Admittedly, some of the dangers that we currently foresee are themselves side effects of knowledge creation. But trying to slow that down won't help, because what do you slow down? In 1900, no one could possibly have foreseen that research in pure physics into the esoteric properties of the element uranium would, within 50 years, become the centerpiece of everyone's existential fear. In our future, too, the greatest dangers will inevitably be unforeseen. And the only type of knowledge that's capable of dealing with those is fundamental knowledge of universal regularities in nature. Any area of fundamental research could suddenly become essential to our survival. Biology, engineering. In World War II, pure mathematics was. We also need knowledge of how to structure human institutions, to retain the miraculous property of keeping civilization stable under rapid change, traditions of criticism and error correction, and we need wealth, meaning the ability to deploy technology in practice. And there's a final consideration. The world doesn't just contain optimists and pessimists and wise and unwise technology users. It contains enemies of civilization as well. And knowledge is impartial. It can be used for good or evil. But the enemies of civilization all necessarily have one thing in common. They are wrong. And so they fear error correction and truth. And that's why they resist changes in their ideas, which makes them less creative and slower to innovate. So our defense against the existential danger from malevolent uses of technology is speed. The good guys must use their only advantage to stay ahead.
I got a feeling we'll be alright, sure as the sun will shine. We'll make it to the other side, all together now we choose. Good news coming our way, good news each and every day. Good news, sure as the sun will shine, we'll make it to the other side. Come on. Yeah. So much time on my lonesome, so much time to think, so much time all alone now. I miss the simple